Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and was hoping to never do this episode, so I'm not even going to ask you how you're doing, Justin, because I know how you're doing. We're pissed off. Eli Manning did not make it in on the first ballot Hall of Fame. We're going to break down why we believe he should be in. But it was, I'm actually bothered, right? Like, I don't, as we've getting farther and farther away from the Super Bowls, I feel less nostalgia and feel less connected to those because the Giants have been so bad. But all of this is just bringing that back up. That Eli Manning, the two-time Super Bowl MVP, he has all the numbers to be a Hall of Famer, and I feel like he's being punished because of the era of quarterback that he played in, where he played with, again, in my opinion, the best era of quarterback play ever.
Yeah, man. Eli Manning's my football hero. All of our football heroes, especially, I was spoiled. Like, spoiled is the correct word of growing up with Eli Manning. And here's what I mean by that. Like you said, as time goes on, like, the nostalgia wears off for the Super Bowls. And, I guess you don't feel as connected to those two Super Bowl teams as the years go on. But as the years have gone on as a Giants fan, and just seeing how this franchise has progressed in the post-Eli Manning days, holy shit, do I gain more of an appreciation for the quarterback that he was, in his flaws and everything. Like, Eli Manning in his flaws and in his strengths and everything in between. I have grown such an appreciation for who Eli Manning is, largely because, dude, he was just available and he was there. Like, we would go into a football season, every single football season, from the span of 2005 to 2017, that's where I kind of feel like it died, 2017, where, they make the decision to bench him, and then his play kind of goes down from there. But 2005 to 2017, that's a 12-year period, right? Or am I doing, it's a 12-year period, 13-year period, where you have a guy at quarterback where we didn't blink, Bobby. We didn't blink about what we were going to get out of the most important position in sports for almost, a decade and a half. That is so rare. It doesn't happen. And 90% of NFL fan bases at one point or another would beg to have somebody like Eli Manning. So that's just the dependability part of it. Oh, yeah, and he's a two-time Super Bowl champ. Two-time Super Bowl MVP on top of it. Bobby Skinner, I think this episode's going to be why we think Eli Manning deserves to be a Hall of Famer, or more specifically, a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what we're going to do, and I guess we'll break it down even more.
Let me get this out of the way before we get into it all. This episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. It's a new year, and to celebrate another year of our amazing partnerships with SeatGeek, we have a new code just for you guys. You can now use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off tickets on SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one rated ticketing app. I just used it to get my my tickets for Daytona in less than 2 weeks, Justin. Woo. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Right now, you can get tickets to the NFL playoffs, baseball games, NBA and NHL, not to mention tons of concerts and other events. You know what you're not going to get tickets to? The Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame this year, because we have to wait because snobby writers. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Just look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. So, I've used this, for Orlando Magic games, NASCAR races, basically anything that they have events for in my beautiful state of Florida. I use SeatGeek, and I saw the Wood Brothers win because of SeatGeek. And we can come through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. You'll be glad you did. Justin, I think here's where I think Eli Manning's hurt. Because right now he's 11th on all time in passing, right? 11th all time. Which is, if you're probably should be a Hall of Famer if you're 11th all time in passing. The issue, Justin, is that there's only 3 guys ahead of him in the Hall of Fame, which means there are 8 guys who are ahead of him who aren't eligible yet. And I think the main issue is those guys are all going to be Hall of Famers, and he was a part of that group, right? You have Brady, Breeze, Manning, and Aaron Rodgers and Roethlisberger are 5 of those guys who Justin pretty confident they're going to be first ballots. Maybe because of this Eli thing, there'll be a little conversation with Ben, but I'm pretty confident all 5 of those guys are going to be first ballot, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Rivers, Ryan, and Stafford. Right, those are the other 3 guys. Ryan, I don't think gets in. If he does, it'll be later down the road. Rivers, I think, has a solid case. And if Rivers had even one Super Bowl, or even just more playoff success in general, he would be in. Stafford, people were saying he belonged in the Hall of Fame after his last Super Bowl. There's a lot of bad years in Detroit. I don't know if he gets in. But like I said, you have those 5 locks, and then leaving those 3 guys. I think a minimum of 2 of those 3 left over get in. Like, there's 3 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame with more passing yards than him, and then 19 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame with less passing yards to him, Justin. And I think as just fans and stuff, we've kind of just spit out talking points and not really looked at it, because people say, oh, well, you have to adjust for the era he's in. When in reality, I think the era he's in just hurts him, because it's not those guys were just benefit. Like, Brady, Breeze, Manning, Roethlisberger, Rodgers aren't just beneficiary of the passing era, which, by the way, wasn't there at the beginning of Eli's career. It happened about mid-career when that stuff started to turn around. When you look at guys' numbers uniformly start to get better. Because if that was the case, Justin, you'd have all these guys that are in line to pass him, right? If it's so easy to put even close to these numbers, there's nobody that's even close. That's going to pass him anytime soon, right? There's nobody even close. Russell Wilson's 11,000 yards off. He's not going to pass Eli Manning, right? And Russ has a Hall of Fame case. Kirk Cousins is 15,000 yards off. He's not going to get it. Derek Carr is 16,000 yards off. He's not going to get it, right? So the next 3 closest guys who are active, and then you have like Flacco and Tannehill and guys who aren't going to get there in there. Like, there's no one else. The closest guy who may get there, and I don't think he will, is Jared Goff, who at age 30 is 22,000 yards off of Eli Manning at age 30, right? So he'd have to have 5 more 4,000 yards seasons and change. That's not super likely. And by the way, Eli had 2 Super Bowl MVPs by that time. And Goff is 34th in passing yards. The next guy that will probably pass Eli Manning, guess who it's going to be, Justin?
Who? Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. That is going to be the next guy that I believe will pass Eli Manning in passing yards. And he has 25,000 yards less than him. So it would take Mahomes over 6 years of 17 games with the same yards as this year when he's 35 years old to pass Eli Manning. Right? Dak is 26,000 yards off. I don't think he'll get there. Allen is 31,000 yards off. He'll, most likely get there. So basically in the next 10 years, there's possibly 3 guys that could pass Eli Manning. 10 years. For a guy that retired 5 years ago, there's possibly 3 guys that could pass him in Goff, Mahomes, and Allen's. And then say, oh, well, guys, he's stat compiled. That's why his numbers. He's stat compiled by playing an extra 3 years, right? So let's just say that in 2016, when you saw the first signs of decline, even though they made the playoffs that year, he retired, right? Which doesn't happen to anybody else. I don't know why Eli Manning's held to this. Like, who doesn't fall off at the end of their career? Peyton Manning did. He happened to win the Super Bowl, but he was much worse than what Eli Manning was.
Tom Brady's basically the only one that didn't do it.
Yeah. He literally is the only one, and John Elway. Like, so let's take off the last 3 years of his career. Let's take 3 years, which is not fair to do, but let's do it. Okay, he drops from 11th all time to 14th behind John Elway and Warren Moon. 2 Hall of Famers pass him. Right. Oh, whip-de-frickin-do. The difference between him and 12th is 6,000 yards, right? And then say, oh, well, take off those years. Okay, that just makes, I feel like, the point better. Because his regular season record goes from 117 and 117 to 108 and 93, which is a better representation of his career. People are just like, oh, we finished 500. People use that against him when they don't include the playoff numbers in there for some reason, because those are the games that actually matter the most. Like, seriously, take out his last 3 years, Justin. He retires at 35 years old, like a lot of quarterbacks do. He has a winning record, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He's 13th all-time in yards, 14th in touchdowns. He never misses a big game, which is part of his legacy. But it's just like Mr. If Man with Eli Manning. And if he didn't have those 2 Super Bowl MVPs where he played beautiful playoff football, then maybe you'd have an argument against him. But guess what?
But he doesn't.
He did the hardest thing to do for a quarterback twice, right? So people try and pull up, oh, what about Jim Plunkett? He has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Okay. Eli Manning has 32,000 more passing yards and 2 more touchdowns. Okay. I wouldn't be making this argument if he had Jim Plunkett's career for that. So like he's one of 13 quarterbacks to win 2 Super Bowls. Only Brady, Montana, Bradshaw, Aikman, and Mahomes have more than 2. And only, one of 6 to win 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Before we get into more stats and, Eli's, one of quarterbacks that does this and where he ranks. Bobby, why do you play the game, man? Why do you play the game?
To win the Super Bowl.
To win the Super Bowl, man. And I just did a tier maker video. I ranked, the best Super Bowl MVPs since the year 2000. And I found myself, all right, where am I going to put this Super Bowl MVP performance? Where am I going to put that? Where am I going to put all of Brady's? How do I differentiate? Deion Branch, Santonio Holmes, Nick Foles, even Von Miller's, for crying out loud. Where am I going to put them in this tier? And I just thought of, all right, my criteria that I just kept going back to was moments and stories and legacies, right? Because if you're going to be a Hall of Famer, we're talking about Eli Manning, why he should be a Hall of Famer, why specifically he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Legacies are about moments and what you accomplish when everyone's watching and pressure is at its highest, right? And Eli Manning did it twice. And in those moments, like you mentioned, Jim Plunkett, if Jim Plunkett has these awesome Super Bowl plays and Super Bowl moments, I apologize to Jim Plunkett. But it's not something that's sticking out in the forefront of my head. Eli Manning does. You can't tell the history of the National Football League without the story of Eli Manning and what he accomplished on the world's biggest stage and in the sport's biggest stage at some point. You're not going to start chapter 1 with it, but you're going to get to it at some point. And Bobby, as I've seen the people of the world, and the sports media of the world try and compare Eli to Trent Dilfer, you see the side-by-side, the stat head side-by-side with him and Carson Palmer, or even comparing him to Phillip Rivers since it was the same draft class. Hell, they were even part of the same trade. The Eli Manning story is unique, and at least over the last few decades, maybe since a guy like Joe Namath, like a case like this has not come up. But there's a reason why the Eli Manning case is so unique, and why those comparisons to Dilfer, Palmer, and Rivers, why they don't make sense. It's because none of those players accomplished what Eli Manning accomplished on the sport's biggest stage and on the world's biggest stage at the height that he did. He accomplished it. He accomplished the Great Escape. He was part of the helmet catch, the best play in Super Bowl history. He was the one who threw the ball to Mario Manningham 38 yards down the field on the left sideline with the shadow of an end zone on his back with Vince Wilfork right in front of him. The greatest throw in Super Bowl history, IMO, in my opinion. He was part of it. He wasn't a passenger in it. He was part of it. He is part of NFL history. And that is not something that just because his fucking numbers may be similar to Carson Palmer or whoever.
And they're not, by the way.
Carson Palmer can't hang his hat on that shit, man. You could tell the history of the NFL without Carson Palmer, without Trent Dilfer. You can't tell it without Eli Manning.
Well, I don't even love the whole, you can't tell the story of football or without Eli Manning. Because everyone does this if. Well, if Carson Palmer, or if... Okay, yes, if Carson Palmer won 2 Super Bowl MVPs, I would be saying he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Forget the fact that he doesn't have the same numbers.
It's why you play the game.
As Eli Manning.
Why we watch.
Right? If Joe Flacco played better, more consistently, and did the hardest thing to do in football, which is win the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl MVP, then yes, Joe Flacco would be a Hall of Famer. But he didn't. But that's the issue. But he didn't, right? Like Phillip Rivers is regular season wise like a better quarterback than Eli Manning, but he never even won a single Super Bowl. And by the way, I think Rivers is gonna get in the Hall of Fame eventually.
Yeah,
I do. Right? The issue here's where the issue is when this is the argument. Well, he didn't get any MVP votes ever, even though 2011 he should have been. I think he should have been second or All Pro. Okay, well, Big Ben's gonna get in. He wasn't part of that. He was, top 5 in the NFL at times, but he played in the best quarterback era of all time. He played like you had Brady and Manning Brady and Peyton basically his entire career. And then you throw in Drew Brees, who's in there, and then you throw in the Packers went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers in there.
Who Eli beat twice in the playoffs on both runs, both of those quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about, like, we'll get to in a second, like, how great those playoff runs and the whole, those defenses. Like, it's just, that's the dumbest thing that people say is the whole, the defenses won those championships. Like, man, you just really weren't watching, were you? You really weren't watching.
Especially the second Super Bowl run.
Oh, yeah. The defense did play great in Super Bowl 42. Don't get me wrong. But you didn't watch those playoffs, did you? Like, he played at the same, like, again, who is the non-Hall of Fame quarterback that, is better than him, that has better numbers than him? It's maybe Phillip Rivers. Maybe Phillip Rivers. Also,
let's I want to quiz you a little bit on some trivia. Now, this is our guy Sean. He used to go by Big Blue Henry, but now he's at NYG_NYR85. He's been a guy I've been talk with him since 2019. And he tweeted this out. First team AP All-Pro teammates during their respective careers. Ben Roethlisberger, 2004 to 2021, he had 12. Phillip Rivers, 2006 to 2020, he had a total of 14. Eli Manning, 2004 to 2019, had a total of 7. Bobby, do you think you can name the 7? This is AP All-Pro first team AP All-Pro teammates that Eli Manning had. He had 7 during 2004 to 2019. Can you name them? I do have all 7 here.
And that includes defense?
That includes defense, yes.
Okay, so this is only first team?
Only first team.
Okay, so Odell
never made a first team. He made I believe he made a second team, never a first team.
Did Shockey ever get it?
Shockey never got it.
Chris Snee
in 2008 is 1.
Michael Strahan
probably did it multiple times. I don't have to confirm it, but yes, Michael Strahan, number 2.
Jason Pierre-Paul
in 2011 is number 3.
Justin Tuck
in 2008 is number 4.
OC
in 2005 is number 5. You're on a roll.
Tiki
in 2005 is number 6. Now there's one more. You're gonna have to maybe dig a little deep. It's past the glory days of the Super Bowl. This guy got
Landon Collins.
Landon Collins in 2016 got a record-breaking contract after that year, or after, I guess, was it his 2017 or 18
After 2 years after that.
2 years after that. But Landon Collins in 2016, those are the 7 first-team AP All-Pro teammates that Eli Manning had in his career. Phillip Rivers had double that number. Ben Roethlisberger had 5 more throughout his career.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like this idea, Eli was propped up. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, name one player that left Eli Manning and had a better career. Not a single one. That includes Odell Beckham Jr. When obviously Eli was a little, over the hill at that point. Like,
there's not one.
No, not a single one.
Shockey won a Super Bowl, but wasn't the same player.
Yeah, he was like the number 2. He was splitting reps on that team. I don't know. I was very happy Shockey got a touchdown in that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't play with a single Hall of Famer on offense. I don't think there's any quarterback in the Hall of Fame that didn't play with another offensive Hall of Famer. And then, Justin, I know you want to bring up some like just playoff numbers and stuff. Like, it's like 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and it's not just he won the MVP because he was a quarterback. Like, he had 2 Super Bowl runs, Justin, with 15 touchdowns from 2 interceptions, and one of the interceptions was a drop pass by Steve Smith.
When the game was on the line, and this is postseason, not postseason, man. And again, this is what we just take for granted. Where you see, like, we've watched Daniel Jones over the last couple of years. When the game's on the line, there's a minute and a half left, and whether the Giants need a freaking field goal to win or tie, you're like, I don't know if they can get it. I just don't know if they can get it. Bobby, when Eli Manning would get the ball with the minute and a half left, with 1 timeout left, and the Giants are starting on their own 20-yard line, and the Giants need to get 80 yards for a touchdown, there was no hesitation. I'm like, fuck yeah, we got this. But again, I grew up as spoiled as spoiled. Again, with all of Eli Manning's flaws, and he had flaws. But, you get the ball in a situation where it's like, I need my quarterback to step up and win the game. Where there would just be no thought he's going to do it. Just going to do it.
Yeah,
which is nuts.
Like, he didn't get lead. He did have flaws. He had interceptions, but he played in the era of interceptions, right? So like this idea of like the beginning of his career, Justin, was not this passing game boom. It happened middle of his career, and guess what happened when that happened? The interceptions started to go down, right? You have those years of 30 plus touchdowns and not a ton of interceptions. I just think these standards have changed due to like his era of greatness, right? Like, he has the most passing yards in a single postseason in 2011, plus the most combined regular season playoff yards, in a Super Bowl run. It's like he was great in those playoffs. He was great. He grew up in the 2007 playoffs, and then the 2011 season where he played with, the 32nd rushing offense, the number 25 defense.
Horrible offensive line.
Yeah, horrible offense. Like, that was not one of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time, but that was a great quarterback season. That was an MVP level season for Eli Manning. Now, Aaron Rodgers obviously deserved that one. You can make an argument that Drew Brees, deserved to be second that year, but like if the defense was better, like, he would have had more hype in that season. But he had to do so many things that year. He literally, I've just carried the team, and it wasn't just this carry this team, to regular season success like we see often with some great quarterbacks. Like, he carried them to the fucking Super Bowl and won it.
Right.
He's like, you say the defenses. Well, he's the only quarterback to win more than one Super Bowl without a top 10 defense.
Right. All right, let's talk about some postseason stuff. You referenced it a little earlier. Bobby, there are 8 quarterbacks in NFL history that in a single postseason, they have 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. There's only 8. There's nobody that has 3. And obviously, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have 1 fourth-quarter comeback in a singular postseason run. There's 8 of them. Jeff Hostetler's one, by the way, 1990. He had 2. Tom Brady's another. Stan Humphries for the Chargers in 1994. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Joe Montana. You have Matthew Stafford's 2021 postseason run. But there's one quarterback that makes this list twice. And it's Eli Manning in 2007, and it's Eli Manning in 2011. So he's the only quarterback in NFL history to have multiple postseason runs where he has 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. I had my guy, Doug Analytics. I'm like, Doug, I sent him a message. Send me some unique stuff. Go on your computer. Go on R. Give me some unique stuff about Eli Manning and some of his magical postseason stuff. How about cumulative EPA for every quarterback run since 1999? There's been 325 of them. So how about Eli Manning in 2007? 26th cumulative EPA out of 325 quarterbacks. And Eli Manning in 2011, even better, 12th out of 325. How about win probability added in the fourth quarter for every quarterback playoff run since 1995? And again, 1999. Again, there's 325. Eli Manning in 2007, first out of 325 quarterbacks in win probability added. And Eli Manning in 2011, 29th out of 325 quarterbacks. Now, this isn't necessarily postseason, but I do want to talk about this because I find this to be one of the more unique splits in NFL history. We talked about, hey, when you're trailing with less than 4 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go, first half, second half. I looked at Eli Manning's first and second half splits from 2011. Bobby, he threw a total of 29 touchdown passes that year. How many did he throw in the second, or excuse me, how many did he throw in the fourth quarter alone?
15. That's
correct. Did you? I'm guessing you looked that up, or you just knew that offhand?
I didn't even have those stats. I knew that one offhand. That wasn't an I looked it up thing.
That's crazy, man. 29 passing touchdowns in a season is no joke, especially in a 16-game season. I mean, especially in a team that won 9 games and the offense wasn't great, offensive line wasn't great, passing game was, but running game didn't have much support.
32nd ranked off rushing offense.
29 passing touchdowns in a season, and to have 15 of them in the fourth quarter alone is nuts. 6 touchdowns in the first quarter, 5 in the second, and only 3 in the third quarter. I think Eli joked in America's Game, the Super Bowl 46, where it's like, I think, we gotta kind of teach ourselves that, the game doesn't have to start. We could start doing well in the first and second quarter. That is allowed. So, yeah, man, we know that Eli Manning's clutch in the playoffs, some numbers to back it up, and really go down a rabbit hole of looking at some Eli Manning splits, especially of that 2011 season, and you're going to have a lot of fun.
This idea that he was like this, he's so well, the defense is one. Like, guess who has the third most wins, Justin, of with a defense that was ranked at bottom half of the NFL?
Yeah, Eli. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Peyton Manning's first. Who Peyton Manning won only one Super Bowl without an elite defense. And Dan Marino's second. Did he win any Super Bowls? And Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls with those bottom half, one that was ranked 17th, so just barely bottom half. Obviously played really well in the Super Bowl. And then it just a flat out bad defense in 2011 where we talked about how much he carried that team. Like I think he had it's just the only argument, Justin, that I see against it is like he wasn't consistently a top 3 to 5 quarterback in his era.
Right.
But I just think it's because of the greatness of the era. Like there was times where he was a top 5 quarterback. There was times where he was a top 3, right? But it just wasn't that sustained. Like he wasn't his brother. He wasn't Brady. He wasn't Breeze. And then he wasn't, Rodgers, or Favre at the end. That's the issue. As in he had to play basically his entire career with those, 3.5 guys operating starting jobs. It's like that's why, right? Like there's so many quarterbacks that are in the Hall of Fame, Justin, that if you put them in that era, yeah, they might have some more passing yards, but they wouldn't have been. They just would not have been anywhere near those guys' level. Like there's so many guys in the Hall of Fame that are in there, right? Troy Aikman is nowhere near that, right? Nowhere near that.
Yeah. You want to talk about a quarterback surrounded by talent? I mean, Troy Aikman, one of the best offensive lines of all time, one of the best running backs of all time. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's
Warren Moon is only one game above 500 in his career, record-wise.
Yeah, right. And Warren Moon is Hall of Fame worthy. It's not saying he's not Hall of Fame worthy.
He broke. He had his a history of his own and a legacy of his own. Like when I talk about legacy and moments, like Warren Moon has that on his own. But hey, if you want to get, that's why it like. I'm a big nerd. Like hey, you know me. I'm a stat guy. I'm a nerd guy, and I like these numbers. I was just talking about EPA when it comes to Eli Manning. But, dude, I mean, at the end of the day, you watch football. Like, we root for football teams because you want your team to win the Super Bowl. And we got that twice in 4 years. And we did it against the greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest coach of all time, and one of them was the greatest team of all time.
Yeah.
Like, that's why it's like, I don't fucking care about, like, numbers and this and that.
He has the numbers. He has the numbers.
It, but, like, I don't care about, like, the comparison with this and the interceptions with that and the record with this. This is why you watch. This is why you play the game. This is why you play it. To win.
I'm not even, like, I refuse to even use that argument because he has the numbers to back it up, right? If he had 2 Trent Dilfer seasons, then fine. But guess what? He didn't. It's not even close. If Carson Palmer had won even one Super Bowl, he's getting MVP or Hall of Fame consideration. He's getting it eventually. If Phillip Rivers has one Super Bowl, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So all these ifs, I feel like make the argument stronger because it's like, yes, if they did this, yes, they would, but they didn't. Justin, why don't you talk to us about something?
I will talk to you about something, and that's something I want to talk to you about. Today's episode is sponsored by Corona. Our friend Eli Manning, I believe, works with Corona. You know what? I always try to be a fan that never loses. Here's what I mean. my team doesn't win every single week, and Eli Manning doesn't get inducted into the Hall of Fame every single week. But even when they lose, I'm still loving the game because whether it's a big deep ball, some third and short conversions, or just a great tailgate out in the parking lot, there's always something to cheer for. And the best beer to pair with awesome moments, Corona. How about it? Corona's all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game, win or lose, at home or on the road. It's the perfect beer to go along with watching football and all the moments that come with it. So cheers to everyone who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona, for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com for 21 plus. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer, imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. I will say, like, you know, I don't want to say I'm like pissed, man, but I'm upset and I'm disappointed that Eli, like, I really wanted to go to Canton. I really thought that we were going to. There was a good chance.
I saw it on Peyton's face in his interview with Adam Schefter.
Yeah, there was like a good honestly, there was a good chance that I am going to cry whenever this happens, because this is legitimately like all of our heroes. But part of me is also just happy that we're talking about Eli Manning. Like, I'm having a good time talking about this.
Yeah, I'm pissed. Like, I am pissed, right? Like, we planned on this being an episode of Eli, his Hall of Fame episode, and whenever he gets in, maybe we'll, you know, like, this was planned. So when he does, because here's the most annoying shit, Justin. He's gonna get in the Hall of Fame.
He is gonna get in, yeah.
Which is, like, stupid, you know, because if you look at this class versus whatever class he gets in on, like, this was the class to do it. But it's just these stupid nerd writers who just are greater than thou have this thing about not letting guys get in on the first ballot, which is so stupid and annoying to me. He would have headlined this class, by the way. Tell me who would have headlined this class. It would have been Eli Manning, right?
Steve
and now
Smith
we got
Senior.
You know, you got Phillip Rivers and Breeze coming down the line, and then Brady. Like, you know, so you got guys that are coming down the line that are going to get in. Are you going to put them in at the same time as Brady? Like, or, you know, are you going to do, you know, Rivers probably won't get in first ballot. Are you going to do him and Breeze? It's like, I just don't. I just get frustrated by it, Justin, because he is a Hall of Famer. Like, you see all the stories. Oh, Eli's going to get in, but he's not going to get in on the first ballot. Why not? Why not? And it's and there's a history of them doing stupid shit, like Terrell Owens, right? Like, has the second best receiving numbers of all time. They don't let him get on the first ballot because they didn't like the way he treated the media. You know, Strahan didn't even get on the first ballot, right? Like, there's just, I don't know. It just, I am pissed, right? Like, boycott fucking Canton, Ohio. Just kidding. Don't do that.
Until he gets them.
Yeah. Like, good luck, Canton, Ohio, and whatever. It's not Canton, Ohio's fault. But I'm just mad. Like, I want to yell at somebody. Yeah, I wanted to dunk on nerds all night and be like, cry more, share the, you know, the Eli suck my dick meme. Mm-hmm. And instead, like, we are the ones that are, you know, like, I see he's not getting in. Like, it actually makes me angry because I remember the day he retired, 5 years ago now, and like waiting for this day, you know, and seeing the guys that retired in his class and who'd been like, oh yeah. And there could be years, Justin, where I'm like, yeah, there's 5 guys more deserving, right? There could be years like that. That's just not the case. They do this stupid shit. You know, Antonio Gates not getting in last year was a joke. You know, and it's like you put it in Devin Hester, right? Like, and I know there's people that probably disagree with me. Like, Devin Hester getting in the Hall of Fame before Eli Manning, to me, is fucking crazy. It's craziness.
Even Jared Allen, who's up for it this year. It's crazy how he's not in already.
Yeah, it's just weird how they do it. You know, we could even talk about Tiki. Like, look at all the guys that are above Tiki and below Tiki, and it's like, yeah, everyone's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And Eli, like, I really thought that this was going to help Eli, and I don't know if he did this because of the Hall of Fame chances and because he was pushing to be first ballot. I don't think so. I think Eli genuinely kind of just likes being part of everything that he's doing with like Omaha Productions and Manningcast and stuff like that. You know, even the Eli Manning show with the Giants, even though that's not a national thing, it's a local thing. You know, him doing the Eli Manning show for the New York Giants like YouTube page. That's how, all right, that lets me know that, all right, this guy kind of just likes doing stuff, which is awesome. But Eli didn't go away. Like, Eli and Peyton together didn't go away after they retired. Like, the biggest story of the Manning family is not Arch Manning. You know, it is, look at what Eli Manning's doing with brother Peyton, and look at who they're having on the Manning cast, and wow, them watching, you know, the first half of games with Bill Belichick is awesome, and you know, they didn't go away. And he very easily could have just like, all right, I lived my career, I am fucking loaded and rich, and I can just relax now. And he did not do that. Literally from day one, he was out there. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is really smart by him, especially doing all the national stuff with Omaha Productions and whatnot, ESPN. This is really smart because this is how you get, like, on the media side, and he's still everywhere, and he's still giving interviews to people and still giving sound bites about this, about that. So I'm like, this is really smart by Eli, because it's only going to, I think, enhance his chances of getting in the Hall of Fame, and maybe even, like, extend on another part of his legacy where, you know, Eli Manning is not just a really, you know, a Hall of Fame worthy football player, but Eli Manning is growing the game of football himself and the Manning family. Even though that may be a bullshit add-on reason, but I could think it's legit. So I actually thought like maybe he would do himself favors. I guess not.
Gary Myers, who is like the advocate for New York sports when it comes to these things, needs to just start beating the shit out of people.
Yes. I mean, he's like, I write books on awesome New York shit. So
I don't care if like bad things happen because of this.
I would like to know and see what the reaction is from, like, if voters are going to come out and say, this is what I think happened, or if there's a voter that's going to come out and say, I did not vote for Eli Manning, and here's why. Because that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, let's not hear Twitter arguments or whatever, you know, Cowboys writer, you know, some guy who's, you know, fucking white as the guy on, you know, Me, Myself, and Irene, but has a, you know, a Mike Tyson picture. Like, I want to hear from the guys who actually kept him out.
Yeah.
Like, give us your reasoning why.
That's what I want to know.
And tell us why the other stuff doesn't stack up. Tell us why being top, you know, of yards, touchdowns, and winning 2 Super Bowl MVPs doesn't get you in. So that's crazy. That's crazy. Could you imagine you said, hey, we draft this quarterback, Justin. We draft Shedeur Sanders. When he retires, he's going to be top 15 in passing stats. He's going to win 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Like, oh, and he played for New York, the easiest Hall of Fame case of all time.
Let me ask you this. I was kind of an asshole to Eli as he was finishing out his career. I was just done with it, man. It was too many years of even 2016 was really rough to watch, but he was slinging it in that postseason. And if his receivers don't drop the ball, I think we maybe could have seen a little bit more
playoffs, baby. There's always a
little bit more of Eli magic, right? But I was like, especially as 2019 comes around, I'm like, I am just done. And thank God there's just another guy here. I was part of that like toxic crew that is some Giants.
Well, it was
fans on
time
Twitter.
to go.
Yeah, but I kind of was. And then, you know, he retires, and then we've lived in the post Eli Manning world for the last, you know, 5-6 years now, and this is where we're at. And like I said to start the show, I've only gained a more of an appreciation and like being thankful for, you know, again, for Eli Manning's flaws and strengths and everything in between. I've only grown more thankful for him. Has that been similar for, I'm sure it is, like, yes, it's similar for you, but walk me through how you maybe even see Eli a little bit differently now that we've been through what we've been through as Giants fans with the quarterback position now compared to maybe like when he retired, or even when we were in the heyday and everything was just, oh, we're just in the middle, we're in the midst of this.
It hasn't really changed much for me because I didn't start doing content till 2019, so I didn't have to be like, he's declining and maybe it's time to move on. I got to be like, you know what, he's my quarterback, and fuck Geno Smith and fuck Ben McAdoo, and I hate you guys. And I hope to never see your stupid faces. Like, so...
2018 was a tough time to start a Giants podcast, and that's what me and my buddy David did.
Yeah, I started in 2019. I said he should have been benched after the Bills game. They bench him after that. Comes back, wins the Dolphins game. It's I was there for that. It's an extremely emotional moment, and like I remember, like it was a nice like sending off for him. He retires. He actually announced his retirement on my birthday that year. No big deal. Thank you, Eli.
Andrew Thomas.
Oh yeah, and we didn't even have Andrew Thomas yet at that time. He didn't even realize what he was celebrating that day. So I don't think it's changed much because, I remember, tweeting the day he retired, like first ballot Hall of Fame. If he doesn't, because when he retired, everyone starts going into like, oh, let's talk about his career, say negative things, and I just was fighting people all day. I have like a lot of people block me because of that, like writers block me because of how vicious we were. So that's it, Justin. We'll be back on Tuesday. I don't have an interview lined up. I messaged Plaxico Burress, Antrell Roll, Antonio Pierce, and one other player, and none of them responded.
I mean, maybe we can just interview Grump again and
no. But
Grump can be somebody else.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because he was Jalen Milroe, then he was Brandon Brown.
He's Corey Webster.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that's actually a good. Maybe we'll just have Grump, play someone else on this episode on the show all the time. Let's just start lying. All right, that's an episode. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Enjoy the Super Bowl. The Eagles will lose. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.